everybody, Jay the Fish Guy here. So today we're doing an unboxing and review video on this automatic fish feeder. This particular company reached out to me a few weeks ago and said, hey, could you take a look at what we have to offer and see if maybe there's anything you might like to do a video on. I scrolled through their Amazon store, kind of poked around, and when I saw this, it definitely caught my eye right off the bat, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. But so this is your classic automatic fish feeder. Has a digital programmable timer on it, has a mount to attach to your tank rim so it's securely in place, and of course instructions on how to program everything. Now, why this particular item caught my eye compared to the others is that, I'll let you take a look at it real quick. All right, it looks vaguely familiar. This is my all-time favorite automatic fish feeder from Eheim, and from the looks of it, pretty close. Some little subtle differences, but they do say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So I was curious to see how their unit stacks up in comparison to the Eheim's. Out of the box, the proportions are close to the same. The way that everything works in terms of adjusting how much food is dumped out is about the same. I'll get some batteries in here and we'll see if the programming is about the same, but it has the same buttons: mode, feed, plus, minus, set, all that good stuff, and then a large button on the top here to push to give you an extra feeding, so that initiates the feeding cycle in addition to what you have programmed. So let's throw some batteries in there and see how it works. Alright, so we got batteries in the unit and everything's ready to go and be programmed. Like I mentioned before, this large button on the top here, if you were to just simply press that, it'll do an extra feeding outside of the normally programmed schedule that you have on it. So let's just say you want to give your fish an extra treat, or they're looking a little hungry. You can just walk by and push the button, and it just works very quickly, very friendly. So if you were going to program in, you have up at the top, you can see the one. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 different feeding times that you could use. You don't have to use all 4. Let's just start with number 1. Let's say we want to do a morning feeding. We'll just leave it right at 9 o'clock. So we have 1 programmed in. We can go to 2. Let's do an afternoon feeding. This is set for 1 o'clock. Let's leave it at 1. And that's it. You can leave 3 and 4 blank. So right now it's set to feed twice a day, once at 9 o'clock, once at 1 o'clock, and you just kind of put it on the tank, walk away, call it a day. Filling up the food container is pretty straightforward and easy. This top piece here just simply comes off like that. I found, having used the Eheim ones before, that if you close the feeding door and fill it up that way first, put the top back on the container, and then adjust how much food you want to come out. It's always a good idea to test this not on the tank first. Meaning, have it on the counter. What I'd like to do a lot of times is take the cover to the fish food container and put it underneath it, and then just do a manual run of how much food is actually going to come out. Now, this is important because sometimes, depending on what style of food you're using, if you're doing flakes, maybe they're larger flakes, smaller flakes, the crumbles, pellets, whatever, if you change foods or you're not really familiar with how much is going to come out, and you just kind of throw it on there and don't test it, you could come back to a tank filled with food, and kind of defeats the purpose of having the automatic feeder if it's going to make your life harder. Alright, so that does it for today's unboxing and initial review video on the Londa automatic fish feeder. Initial impressions are good. It seems like a quality built unit. Aside from the fish food and a couple of AA batteries, you're pretty much ready to go right out of the box. Programming is pretty straightforward and simple. Not a whole lot more to say about it, really. The long-term results are what's going to be a little more important, at least I feel, on this particular unit. Again, like I've said before, you know, the Eheims have always been my go-to because of what I do for a living. I need something that's consistent and reliable, and I don't have to worry about if I'm only going to a client once a month. So, like I said, I'm going to put this on my son's tank, going to kind of leave it there for a year and forget about it. So, with any luck, you won't be hearing back from me about this for a while. And in that case, you know, it was 2 thumbs up. It was a good unit. If I do end up having issues, be sure that I will be making another video and talking about them in depth. But I don't think it should really have any issues. I mean, it's a $10 cost savings comparatively to the Eheim unit. And with any luck, they didn't go too cheap on the internal components. That's the only things that can really fail on this, is either the motor that drives the food barrel or the electronics that control the programming. So, again, time will tell and we shall see. But definitely worth checking out if you're looking for a great budget automatic fish feeder. And, you know, any automatic fish feeder, not just this one, but if your system doesn't have an automatic fish feeder for your pelleted or your flake food that you feed, you'll be surprised at how much that can make a difference in terms to the consistency of your fish health, your happiness of your fish, and even water quality. Because if one day you're putting in a little food, and another day you're putting in a lot of food, it's just not consistent. And one of the things I always try to stress in my videos, consistency is key. So by having an automatic fish feeder take care of your pelleted or flake food needs, it can actually really help out with a tank sometimes, depending on how good or bad you are about feeding. So at the very least, worth checking out again. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and if you're not a subscriber, please click the subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one.